Nice to see you all here. You're welcome to our Swedish walkthrough webinar, which is organized by Sweden Students Alumni Network Azerbaijan and online Swedish platform. Today we will have talk about Swedish language, so you must really know about that. And today we have Robert Melvit with us, a Swedish language coach, who is going to talk about Swedish language and much more. So I hope that you will enjoy this webinar. And Robert, I don't want to talk about about more, so I want to pass the word to you.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much, Rahil, and thank you for this opportunity. Rahil, as a chairman of this alumni organization, it is his initiative to put up this webinar. So thank you very much for this opportunity. And as said, everyone else is also very welcome. Everyone else is very welcome. Okay, so let's see. Online Swedish, that is basically the school, if I may call so, organized by me. But about that later on, of course, some of you know me in person and are sort of part of our organization, if you can say so. So in this webinar, we will speak about how you at your own could cover A1 and A2 level. Let's say that if you're a beginner, completely beginner, but of course, even if you have already some knowledge of Swedish language, you will still find this webinar useful, as we will cover some moments which you might have not thought about before. And also, before I go further, on the request of the participants, I'm recording this webinar. And so as some of you are working or not available to attend at the moment, you will be able to watch this video later on, so that you know, guys. Before we're going further, I want to say also, passa på. There's a word, great word in Swedish, passa på. Take the opportunity and say that we have Språkcafés at weekends, Fridays, Saturdays, Sundays. So we are going to vary it every week, because some people complain that there is no Språkcafé on Saturday. So, okay, this time it is on Saturday, for example, at 2 o'clock. But we will vary. You can simply join us. And I think, Kinga and Sofia, they are very active members of Språkcafé. So everybody else is very welcome to join. It's basically a conversation club, by the way. Yeah. So, in short, this is our webpage, onlineswedish.org. And some of you, I think most of you, are actually members in our Facebook group, where we put those upcoming events. And we have also our YouTube channel, which is promising to grow in the nearest future. I used to work with that a lot, but then, somehow, I don't know, I let it just like this. But now I think I want to continue with YouTube. So yes, it's our channel, YouTube channel, Online Swedish course. Okay, let's see. Intended learning outcomes of today's session, right? After all, you are here to learn something, not just waste time. So, intended learning outcomes. First of all, it is Swedish language and its structure. For some of you, it is obvious, and for some of you, it is still a sort of a dark forest. The second outcome is how to learn faster, if one can do that at all. Well, spoiler, yes, you can learn faster, actually. And books and other tools that are useful or not useful. Yeah, the books that are not useful to learn Swedish. We will also speak about that. But our major part is Swedish language. Yeah. And why do I have this picture here? Not because that I have magister in history, but it is about how to measure the knowledge. How do we measure the knowledge? It is a very, very tricky question, because it's not self-evident. But somehow there is a way that we do measure. And this is European framework, common European framework, whereas we say that if you are A1, or I would say even A0, so to say, then you are beginner. So you have basic user, then B1, B2, independent, and then proficient user. In English, I mean, you have different names for that, right? Upper intermediate, I don't know, lower intermediate. It can be called a bit differently. And the reason is that sometimes it is not clear where you are in this map. It's something approximately that can, for teachers, it's sort of orientation for us teachers, so to say. But otherwise, there is no strict border between A1 and A2. It doesn't exist. So your journey starts from A0, because A1, when you say I'm A1, yeah, it doesn't mean that you know stuff that is belonging to A1. So you are actually A0, so you need to become A1. It is achievement itself. So when you have achieved A1, it is an achievement. Yeah, and here we are to speak about A1 and A2 according Common European Framework level. Yes. We will speak about Swedish language and its structure, how to learn faster, books and other tools. Yeah, SFI and Convox. TISUS test. TISUS test, probably some of you have heard about it. And why to learn Swedish. Why to learn Swedish. So, why to learn Swedish? By the way, when you will manage yourself with English, perfectly fine. And when you don't have any, so to say, Swedish-speaking friends. Right? There are many of you who are living in Sweden for a while, 5 years, 9 years, and yet never had this need to learn Swedish. Well, the reason number one overall that you're learning Swedish, it's your personal reason. Either it's a job, it's a relationship, it is hobby. We have hobby learners too, those who love Swedish language, right? And then there is a reason number two. It is giving you a new perspective in Europe and European languages. I will speak slightly more about that. And here we have this beautiful language families, right? So you can see that we have 4 big major families, right? Latin family, where we have Romanian, Italian, Spanish languages, right? We have Turkic family, where we have, Turkish, obviously, but Azerbaijani language belongs here, right? And then we have Slavic language, where is Russian is one of the famous representatives, but of course, Polish, Croatian, etc. We have representatives who are representing this part, Latin family, right? We have, of course, many people here from Azerbaijan representing Turkic family, and we have, of course, Russian speakings here too, right? Slavic family. So when learning one, when you learn Swedish language, it opens, so to say, perspective on Germanic family. And why is English and English is not sufficient? Because English, by vocabulary, it's rather Latin language. Yeah, structure, somehow it is Germanic, but the vocabulary is, you could place it here. So English is not good representative for Germanic family, but Swedish is, I can promise you. So reason number 3 why you must learn Swedish. Well, with your allowance, I will reveal this at the end of our session. So please stay with us. And at the end of the session, I will tell you why you have to learn Swedish. And I think I will convince you. I will convince you. So, Välkommen, or in our case, I should say Välkomna. Välkomna, but I will not confuse you right now. Välkommen is the word welcome, and I'm welcoming you guys. And as you see, it is pretty much similar in English. And if you go a bit more further, you will realize that we spoke about perspective on Germanic language, right? So we have Välkommen. It's very similar in Danish, Norwegian, Faroic, German, Dutch, Icelandic. So when you learn Swedish, you have also sort of access to these languages too. Okay, also, we can say that Swedish is the easiest among these Germanic languages. And Swedish is, I would say, yeah, easier than Danish or even Norwegian. But there is a one but. When it comes to comparison with English, and it's legit to compare it with English since today at the moment our reference language is English, right? Therefore we are comparing it with English language. So Swedish has multiple words for same word, notion, that are not interchangeable. It cannot be substituted as a synonym. Probably you have heard about Swedish word for before. We have 9 befores in Swedish, and they are used differently. They are used different, and you cannot just use them as a synonym, not in all cases or far away. Swedish has strict word order, so it means that you don't have any nice poetry in Swedish language because you have to follow some strict word order, and this word order implies that you have a main clause, straight word order. So straight word order in main clause, and then you have reversed word order, and then you have subordinate clause. Then you have another word order. In Swedish is basically huvudsats and bisats. And then you have rak ordföljd and omvänd ordföljd. We will speak more about it. Then you have something which is called genders. In English, you don't have any genders applied to nouns, but in Swedish you do, those n-words and et-words. So it means, it implies changed form in possessive pronoun and adjective. Those we have some drop-ins, guys, please welcome. So we have utrum and neutrum, which implies that we have to change our possessive pronoun and adjective, which you never do in English, right? You don't do it in English. And then we have possessive pronouns and reflexive possessive pronouns. Hans, hennes, deras versus sin, sitt, sina. English doesn't have it. So it is something Swedish. We have many grammatical terms that have same appearance. They are overlapping. It's like same word, but completely different grammatical function. For example, if you take this innocent den and det, it might sound like yeah, it, but then it appears that it has so many different functionalities. Or if you take the verb for, and then it has different substantives, for, and then you have pronoun for, which means few. And for it means to get. For is also even the help verb, can function as a help verb. And we have intertwined grammatical rules like indefinite adjective plural, which ending with ah, and definite adjective ah. And then adjective describing et-word and adverb both get t. So what I want to say that even though technically it is not difficult, you have just ah or you have just t at the end, but those are intertwining, which is confusing. It is confusing. So this stuff makes that Swedish is difficult than English. And then you have much more words resembling each other that have completely different meaning. Yeah. So much more homonyms, homographs, and homophones in daily used vocabulary. Of course, you have homographs or homonyms in other languages too, but I think Swedish has more. It feels like, at least. Yeah, just shortly about Swedish language's origin. Yeah, we mentioned that Swedish language belongs to the Germanic family or Germanic group or subgroup. You can find it here, and you will see that we have, so to say, only 3 for Germanic languages. And Swedish language is counted as North Germanic languages. you might ask what happened to East Germanic languages. Well, they are extinct. They don't exist nowadays. So back in time, out of this Proto-Nordic or Scandinavian language, or Old Scandinavian language, we have developed West Nordic languages, and then we have East Nordic languages. But this is misleading today. As you maybe have heard, Sweden, Norway, Denmark, historically they have been in union. Norway used to belong to Denmark. Norway used to be in the union or belong to Sweden. It's usually not good to say it, but that's the history. So it is Swedish language and Norwegian has much more in common. Even though back in time, Icelandic and Faroe was developed from Norwegian, as West Norwegian settlers have settled down in those islands. But this is misleading. Today, Norwegian and Swedish, they are the closest to each other. And then you have, of course, impact of those Scandinavian languages a bit all over in the Baltic Sea and a bit more, you can see. And there is something what is called Plattdeutsch, Flat German. It is in the area close to Denmark, and they are German when they speak with dialect. Or if you go to Netherlands, to Frisia, you will it resembles a lot Swedish. When you see it written, you see that vi snackar, we talk, right? In Swedish, you would say the same, right? Vi snackar. And it is not, it's different from the standard German. But it is also good to mention that in Sweden, there is not only Swedish language, there are also other ethnic people, ethnic minorities with different culture, different tradition, and different languages. And they are located in the northern part of Sweden, overlapping to Norway, Finland, and Russia, of course. They have completely different language systems. And when it comes to Sweden, what about the dialects? Because when we speak the language, at least the one that I'm promoting here, it's about the standard Swedish language. But what is standard Swedish language? Because it doesn't exist per se. You don't take, there is no language that is standard and everybody is not standard. Well, it is basically a dialect, one of the dialects that is dominant, and it is Sveamål. From that name, you have this name, Sverige. It means the kingdom of Sveas, Svea rike, Sverige. And there are many dialects in Sweden, maybe above 100, of course, but it's negotiable. You can discuss it. But if you would take at least a minimum number, then it will be 6 major dialects. 6 major dialects. And those are, division is more or less like this. And we have here East Swedish. East Swedish, what I'm saying is Finlandssvenska. Finlandssvenska, which is Eastern dialect. In Finland, it is also Swedish is official language. It is spoken by maybe 5% in the west of Sweden. Sorry, not Finland, especially west of Finland. Yes, close to Sweden. Great. And by the way, they're Swedish. You can notice directly that the melody of the language is different. Their Swedish resembles Finnish, of course, melodically, the prosody. And finally, we can also say that when it comes to the dialects, and languages, you can say that someone from Stockholm would more or less without problem understand someone from Oslo in Norway, but you would have difficulty to understand someone from Älvdalen. So that's the discussion. What is language and what is dialect? Well, you can always, it's a discussion among politics and among the linguists. But as you understand that yeah, you can also understand some, so to say, someone from Denmark, or probably they would understand better you, right? Because to understand Danish, at least outside of Copenhagen, it's much more difficult. According people from Copenhagen, they don't understand neither what the rest of the Denmark is saying. Okay, enough with that. Now we can look at our alphabet. Of course, it is resembling English alphabet, but the pronunciation is slightly different. And the problem is with the English. The problem is with the English vowels. For example, this is one of the most challenging vowel that it feels like most of the people are experiencing, those of having English as a reference language, because in Swedish is and no a, nothing else. It's pure It's like when you go to dentist, and then you have which is a pure e. Then you have this letter G and pronounced as J, like Gävle, Göteborg, and then this the same way, J, like in yellow, and then you have K, which can also be sh sound, depending on the combination. We will speak about it. And then you have O, which is also U, and most of the time it is U actually, and then can be pronounced as O as well. Then here we have U, which can also be U. Yeah, this one is most difficult sound probably in Swedish. It's U. It's U, but more rounded lips. Then we have Zeta. It is not Z like in Zorro. It's like more S, Zeta. And then we have those lovely Swedish letters O, A, Ö. And we can say that this A is also pronounced as E. And there are no rules. There are no rules when it is pronounced as A or E. So we said it's O, strict O, A, E, and Ö. That's how it looks like. And we can also say that O itself could be also a word for a pound. And O, as well as an Ö itself, means an island. Yeah. So if we continue with our letters, as we mentioned before, about U, U can be like U in Uppsala or U in Umeå. So you see, it is pronounced differently, Uppsala and Umeå. And then we have also those combinations. You remember sjuk, right? The combination of SJ, SK, STJ, SKJ, SCH, and then CH is giving us sound or sh sound. It is a sort of dialect, those who say sjuk or those who say shuk. I would recommend you guys, if you are pure in the language, go with sound, because sh sound, it is often leading to misunderstanding at some cases. I would recommend you go with if you have possibility. If you cannot make this sound, you can go with sh. You can say shuk if you want, no problem. And then we have this y sound, like yellow, right? Combination of G and soft vowels. Those are soft vowels, right? E, I, U, A, Ö. Those are soft vowels. This combination of G give us Y sound. Ger, gick, gymnastik, gärna. And then you have DJ, HJ, and LG, which is also Y sound. Yeah, and then we have a sh sound, right? Chemi, combination of K with those same soft vowels give us sh sound, as well as KJ and TJ, shugo, right? Shugo. And then we have those now it is assimilations. Yes, it is assimilations. For example, when you hear the name Anders Svensson, right? So combination of RS, but also it is something to do with the dialect. Not everybody says kurs, they can say kurs. Ursäkta, it's also fine. Or you can say ursäkta. So it is assimilation of R and S. You don't have to apply, but why not if you are still learning? And then we have, now we are done with the letters, so we can speak about word classes. In English, probably you say part of speech. And of our interest today, it is substantive, it is nouns, it is adjective, right? Adjectives. We have räkneord, it is numeral, but it is not that important today. We have pronomen, pronouns like me, you, he, she, right? And then we have verb. Those are important, right? Pronomen, verb are important. Adverbs also, probably for A2 level, I would say. Prepositions are very important, but I think prepositions deserve their its own webinar, I would say it. And then we have conjunctions. They are also important, but not that very, so to say. You can, I mean, usually they are included to some part of this grammatical syntax. And then we have interjections. That is also not so important today because interjections are those sounds, I, oi, oof. So those sounds that we make. So conjunctions, we will speak about it in terms of syntax. Let's see. Yeah, we start with substantive. Nouns. And what is nouns? Well, this picture is describing it very well, I think, at least. Everything what we can see, think, touch, think about, it is substantive, it is noun. And what do we have to know about nouns? That if there are concrete nouns, that's the items that we see, right, that we touch, we can see, book, a lamp, a car. And then we have abstract nouns, like if you say love or friendship, sadness, those are also grammatically they are nouns. And then we have collective nouns like people, team, animals, right? And when we speak about Swedish substantive, we have to think of these beautiful articles and et, and those are indefinite articles. Pretty much as in English you have a and n, but yet there is difference. And then we have definite articles, den, det, dom. In English you have only one definite article, right? The. So articles, and then, et and det, and then you don't have any plural, so to say, article, indefinite article. There is no plural indefinite article. There is only plural definite article. Right, let's examine a bit closer. So in English, you have a book, right? Right. And in Swedish, you will say en book, en book. And then you have ett äpple, right? An apple. And in Swedish is ett äpple. So the articles in Swedish or in English is used because of the sound, right? A book because it's a consonant, and then you have an apple, it's a vowel because it will sound a bit strange, right? Apple, something is needed there. But in Swedish, those articles, they are rather representing the gender, if we can say so. In other languages, you have genders like masculine, feminine, neutrum, but in Swedish it is utrum and neutrum. It is not about really female or male, it's just more, sort of division. So equally, in English, you will say the book, and in Swedish you will say boken. You see, this definite are, we have some changes in the word. The word becomes definite. And then we have the apple, and you will say äpplet, right? En book becomes boken, äpple becomes äpplet, ett äpple becomes äpplet. And then you have the books, right? Böckerna. So here we have plural definite, right? So boken is plural it is singular definite, and böckerna, it is plural definite, as well as you have apples, you say äpplena. Yeah. And then you have 5 declinations. Of course, you don't need to worry about declination when you're learning. It's just sort of, yeah, to keep in mind. But otherwise, by no means you should worry about that. So we have en flicka, flickor, so to say en words with or at the end. We have en pojke and pojkar, en words and having r at the plural. We have en röst, röster, and then we have et words, et äpple. It is et word ending to a vowel, and then you have et word ending to consonant. Those are different groups of the substantive. Overall, I can say that yeah, vast majority of the words are N words. They are N words. 75% probably are N words. Only, yeah, smaller part is et words. And if you, let's say, if you would learn 20, 30 et words, you will be more than good, because you don't need all the et words in the vocabulary, right? You just need 30 et words that are daily used, like et hus, et barn, et bord. If you know them, then you are fine. So if you look closer to that, basically this is foundation. What I'm showing here, it is basically foundation for A1 level, because you have to understand this. You have to understand this before you can go further. The idea of that there are indefinite forms, right, and definite forms. It can be both in singular, it can be also in plural. So this, for metrics, you have to understand that a substantive, it appears in singular, indefinite, it appears as singular, definite, it appears as plural, indefinite, and it appears as plural, definite, indefinite and definite. And don't worry about genitive. Genitive is simply belonging. So if we take the word flicka, which is a girl, right? Flicka, and then definite form of that is flickan, and it's singular. And then we have plural. Indefinite, it is flickor. Definite, it is flickorna. So you have to understand this part. If you are a beginner, you make sure that you understand this. And here we have group number 1, simply because it's words, N words ending with a, and we can predict that if we have N word ending with a, it means that in plural, indefinite, it must be flickor, as well as if you take lampa and lampa, it's N word ending to a, then you know that it is lampan, as well as lampor, and as well as lampurna. So these groups sort of can make us to predict the endings, but you don't need to learn the groupings because we are not really machines. We don't walk around and think of the groups. I think overall you should simply learn the vocabulary. That is the most important. And of course, understand what is this singular, plural, indefinite, definite. This is more important. Then we have, of course, group 2 and words ending with e and pojke. So if I have an n word ending with e, I know that in plural it will be ar. The same way, helping us to predict. The group number 3 is a bit difficult. It is, yeah, it can be a bit slightly different words like police, röst, elev. It is those words ending to r in plural. And then we have et words. We have et words ending with a vowel, right? Äpple, is a vowel. And then we get only T here, right? Definite form gets only T. So you don't say äpplet, right? It will be a bit difficult. You just say äpplet. Äpplen in plural, indefinite, and definite is äpplena. And then you have this group number 5, which is friendly and unfriendly at the same time. It is adverbs ending to consonant. You see, N is a consonant, which means that in plural it is same. But singular definite, it is barnet. Yeah, et barn, barnet. And then you have barn, which is barnen. It is plural definite. And this is a bit tricky because, as I said before, yeah, most of the words are N words. That's true. And how do you learn the words, right? Usually you see a word and you remember that. So you say in banan, and next time you say bananen. Let's say that you read some article about bananen, then you know that bananen is N word, right? But what happens if you see et barn, right? Et barn, and you can also see in the newspaper barnen, and you make conclusion that barnen is et word. But it is not true. It is et barn, barnet, singular, definite, and två barn, barnen. So be aware of these following words. Ett hus, right? Huset, två hus, husen, ett tåg. Yeah, then you have tågen, plural, definite. So that is the problem with those words. But otherwise, yeah, they are easy to remember. They have no plural ending, indefinite. Yeah. And then we have adjectives. Adjective is something describing, right? Describing short, tall. And then we have a basic form, compared form, and superlative. We will speak more about that, but first we'll look at adjectives. So adjectives, they are applied on substantive. They don't exist itself, right? Let's say like this, tall, right? What is tallness? What is the tallness? I mean, tallness must be applied to something. It doesn't exist itself. So adjective is describing substantive. And in Swedish language, there are indefinite form and definite form of adjectives. So what do we have to know about substantive in order to understand indefinite adjective? We have to know whether if it is N-word or et-word, so to say articles, right? En pojke, et äpple, right? We have to know if it's plural, many, pojkar or äpplen. We have to know whether if it's indefinite or definite form singular. Is it pojke or pojken? Is it äpple or äpplet? We have to know if it's indefinite or definite form of plural. Pojkar or pojkarna, äpplen or äpplena. When I am saying that, listing that, it sounds a lot, but in practice, you will see that it is easier. But here is just a listing. Most of you, I think, know it already. We can look here to adjectives that are indefinite, right? So adjective remains same, gets nothing, so to say. It remains the same, gets nothing if we apply this adjective on N word. So what do we mean by adjective remains same? Let's say that you have an adjective, and that adjective is listed in the dictionary in some certain way. And this remains exactly the same way if we describe something, some noun, substantive, that happens to be N-word. Now, if we apply this adjective to et-word, we will get extra T there. So this little T will be applied to our adjective when our adjective describes et-word. Then adjective gets a if it's applied to plural, many items. Plural, remember guys, is plural regardless if it is N-word or et-word in singular. So when we speak about plural, we don't speak about plural N-word. We don't speak about plural et-word. plural is so to say its own group. Plural is plural regardless of its gender. Yeah. So if we say en, right, and article, we start with that, and then we say sjö, which happens to be, by the way, lake, right? And sjö is a lake. So here, guys, we are describing n word, right? We say en stor sjö, and stor is adjective, the way how it is listed in the dictionary. We don't touch it because we are describing n word. Equally, if we will say sjön, the definite form of the substantive, the lake, sjön är stor, the lake is big. And now we take ett word, ett hus, right? And then we say that it's a big house, ett storhus. Yeah, it doesn't really work because ett word describing, adjective describing ett word will get T there, ett stort hus. Equally, if you're gonna say the definite form of substantive, huset, the house är stort. Huset är stort. So this is indefinite form of adjective. Now, we mentioned singulars, and now look at plurals, right? Here we have three beautiful lakes, right? Tre sjöar, and then we have stor. Do you remember, guys? When we apply our adjective to plural, we get extra a. Tre stora sjöar. Equally, the definite form of substantive, right? Sjöarna är stora. Sjöarna är stora. And now, tre hus, right? Now we have, technically ett word in plural, but we don't actually care if it's ett, right? So tre hus, right? Lovely, lovely. Tre stora hus. Tre stora hus. Remember, guys, when we apply adjective on plural substantive, we get extra a. Equally, you will say husen är stora. Yeah. And now, adjective indefinite. We can summarize it this way. Yeah, adjective applied to n word, they remain same, right? En stor sjö. Adjective applied to ett word, get extra t, and adjective applied to plural, get extra a. Basically, that's it. Yeah. And now we have definite adjective, definite form of adjective. And what is that? What is definite form of adjective? Well, definite adjective always requires a. Exactly as plural indefinite adjective. Do you remember we said stora sjöar, right? We have a at the end. Definite looks exactly the same way. Definite adjective requires a in all forms, regardless if it's n word, et word, or plural. So you will put a to all forms. For example, you might have seen this stora kupp. One of my students have noticed that. So it's a good example of definite form. It's not about plural, right? So we don't have stora kupp. We don't mean that there are many kupps here. It's about the big kupp. Yeah. So if we have seen before scenario where we had indefinite adjective plus indefinite substantive, right? Indefinite substantive is en bil, and indefinite adjective is stor. Equally, ett stort hus, två stora bilar. So this scenario is indefinite adjective plus indefinite substantive. And now we have in use our beautiful definite articles, right? We have our definite articles, and now we can say den stora bilen, the big car, or det stora huset. You see, it is not about many houses. It's about one house, but it's the big house. So here we deal with definite adjective with a definite substantive. You see, guys, substantive is definite as well as the adjective is definite. De stora bilarna. So you see a for n-word, right? We have a for et-word. Equally, we have a for plural. Yeah, let's see what we have. Next scenario. Next scenario is definite adjective plus indefinite substantive. Min stora bil. Mitt stora hus. Mina stora bilar. Or you could say Roberts stora bil. Roberts stora hus. So what is of interest here, it is, you see, guys, it is definite adjective and indefinite substantive. This is in interest. And when do we have this scenario? We have this scenario when we have possessive nouns and genitive. Then you will never say min bilen. So possessive pronouns and genitive requires indefinite substantive. You never use possessive pronoun with definite form of substantive. So min bil and never min bilen. You never use genitive like Roberts with definite form of substantive. You will never say Roberts bilen. You will only say Roberts bil because it's implied that is definite, sort of. Yeah. So be careful for that. And now we have comparisons, right? Positive is the basic form. We have comparative, the compared form, and then we have superlative. So if we have good, better, best, those are comparisons, sort of, right? Big, bigger, biggest. And then we have different adjectives with a slightly different endings. More or less, they are same, right? We have group one, where you have are at the end, like fin, finare, finast. And then in Swedish, you have the definite form of superlative. So finast compared with finaste. Den finaste, the most beautiful. Vem är den finaste tjejen? Who is the most beautiful girl? So when you use definite form, so to say, you use also definite form of superlative. Högsta priset, the highest price, and not högst. So these are basically endings, and also you have sort of in English you have, right, expensive, more expensive, most expensive, the same way you use in Swedish, like känd, known, famous, mer känd, more known, like more famous, and mest känd. So you have the same, you have similarities. Also you have a bit irregular adjectives. They don't really derive. It's not really obvious, so to say. You have hög, right? Högre, högst. So you just have endings. But if you look here, bra, bättre, best, or gammal, yeah, äldre, gammal, äldre, äldst. It doesn't really derive from gammal. So we have also irregular adjectives. And the worst of them is, of course, lilla, little. It is completely irregular. Yeah. And now it's time for us to speak about adjective and adverbs. It is adverb. It is not that difficult per se, but it's overlapping. It is intertwined with adjective in some way. And for the beginner, it can be a bit confusing. Therefore, I suggest that don't bother yourself with adverb unless you are already A2 level. Not that because it's difficult. It is not about difficulty. It is intertwining. It is confusing. And we will see why. So adverbs describe adjective. Do you remember, guys? We said adjective describe substantive, adjective describe person, but adverb is the one who is describing adjective, so to say. Adverb describe also verb. Adverb describes also adverbs themselves. And how is that possible? Well, we will see it soon. In order to understand Swedish adverb, you must understand Swedish adjective. Why? Because most of the adverbs, they derive from adjective. They derive from adjective. Adverbs do not change. They are not modified, conjugated. They remain same. Adverbs get extra T as indefinite adjective when applied to at word. So the adverbs always get T as independent adjective when indefinite adjective is applied to at word. We will see very soon how it is possible. So adverbs, they like to have a T. Yeah, just remember that adverbs like to have a T. Yeah, so yeah, Shakira, it's a good example. I hope so. Shakira är vacker. Shakira is beautiful. Here, beautiful applies to Shakira. Well, you might argue, because in some languages it is a bit different. You might argue that the beautiful, it is her state of being, right? She is beautiful, the state of being. But now, it's not the case in Swedish. It is not the case in Swedish. When you describe a person, then you have adjective and not adverb. So vacker does not apply to this verb. Vacker is for Shakira, beautiful. Now, if we take this example, Shakira är vacker, right? We said that Shakira är vacker is adjective. But if we say she is very beautiful, Shakira är väldigt vacker. Shakira is very beautiful. You see, guys, here we got a T, extra T, because väldigt, very beautiful, it's about the extent. So adverbs, they are sort of quantifiers, right? How beautiful, very beautiful. So väldigt refers here to vacker. In this case, our adverb is describing adjective. Förstår ni? So our adverb is describing adjective. Now, when we say that Shakira är väldigt vacker, we can see that adverb is väldigt, adjective is vacker. And now we go to more action. Shakira sjunger. Shakira sings, right? Vackert. Shakira sings beautifully. Now, beautifully is describing not Shakira, but the way how she's singing. Förstår ni? So here, adverb is describing the verb. She's doing something beautifully. She's singing. And now, Shakira sjunger vackert. Now we have Shakira sjunger väldigt vackert. Shakira sings very beautifully. Now we have adverb describing another adverb, right? So here we have two adverbs. Adverb describing another adverb. That's basically how the adverb is working. So Shakira är vacker is our adjective. So adjectives, Shakira, sorry, now we have adverb. So we are summarizing adverbs applied to adjective. Shakira är väldigt vacker. Adverb applied to verb. Shakira sjunger vacker. Sorry for this. It shouldn't be here. And then we have adverb. Shakira sjunger väldigt vackert. So this is the summary of adverbs applied to adjective, verb, and adverb. And sorry for this. It shouldn't be here. Yeah. Adjective versus adverb. What's the difference? Adjective, you remember, guys, is different depending on if it's N-word, ett-word, and plural. So we have, for example, N-word, katten är lugn. Ett-word, barnet är lugnt. And then we have plural, pojkarna är lugna. This is adjective, right? And now we compare it with adverb. Adverbs do not care about N-word, ett-word, or plural. They remain same. They get T, right? Remember? And if you compare these sentences, katten sover lugnt. The cat is sleeping calmly. Or barnet sover lugnt. So now we have ett-word, right? The child is sleeping calmly. Plural, pojkarna sover lugnt. It remains same regardless if it's N-word, ett-word, or plural. Unlike adjective. Yeah. And now we have adverb or rooms adverb, the direction, position, location expressions. In English, it is slightly different. In English, you use prepositions, but in Swedish, you have a bit different usage of that. It is basically about direction and location. Well, let's say that there is a house and there is a man walking home. This guy is walking home. It's direction. So we will say han går hem. Hem is direction. But if he happens to be at home, då han är hemma. Han är hemma. He's at home. Of course, maybe it is not very great example, but let's see. So here we have direction. We have those space adverbs, so to say, adverbials. And then we have location, when you are not moving. So location, position. They look similarly, but you see with some different endings. Overall, let's say like this. If you are going or coming here, I say kom hit, come here. Or if I say go there, go dit, go there. It's direction, hit and dit. But if you are standing at your place, if you are already here, or if you are already there, then you say här and där. So in English, you don't have this difference. In Swedish, you have, and it's a crucial difference, actually. Pronomen. Yeah, now we have pronomen. It is a very important part of the grammatical ecosystem, I will say. Well, there are different kind of pronouns or pronouns in English, right? Personal, you have reflexive, you have possessive, you have reflexive possessive, you have indefinite, you have demonstrative pronouns. And most important is to understand the mechanism of personal pronouns. So you perceive the world from your perspective point of view, right? It means that you are the first person. You are always see the world around yourself. Therefore, you are the first person. And since you are alone, yeah, then you are singular, of course. Then the one you are talking to, in my case, right, it's you guys, but yeah, let's see it from your perspective. You have a second person. First person is you, second person, the one the next to you, whom you are talking to. And then you have somebody there, over there. It's a third person. Somebody over there. It's a third person. And since that person is alone, it's also singular. Equally, we can say that if we are here together, then it is we. And then from our perspective point, we are the first person in plural. And then if we're talking, to some other group next to us, it is again you, second person plural. And then we have some third group who is over there, and it is third person plural. Basically, this is applied for all the languages. It's applied for all the languages. It's the same mechanism. And of course, it's much easier than it seems. It's just simply the idea. You should know the idea about first person singular and first person plural and third person, because it will be important later on. So if I say jag älskar dig, I love you, right? Whereas jag is subject and dig is object. And those are also different pronouns. Those are different pronoun. You remember, guys, subject, what is subject? Subject is the one who's performing, the active one. The active one in the sentence is subject. So jag älskar dig. Jag älskar dig, right? Equally, it could be du älskar mig. So here, du, you are active, and I'm, object here. Subject and object in this case. So personliga pronomen or personal pronomen can be divided into groups, sort of subject and object. When we're active, we will look like this. And why it is called subject? Because if you see these words in the sentence, it's technically, automatically is subject in the sentence. If you have jag in the sentence, it must be subject in that sentence. There is no other way. So therefore, they are called subject, as well as object, right? By default, they will be object. So we have first person, second person, third person, and then we have first person plural, second person plural, third person plural. We have a newly introduced pronoun, hen. It is gender neutral. Sometimes it's used. If you see, don't be surprised. And in object, it can be also hen or henom. And what concerns the third person, it is pronounced as dom, both. I get always this question, what's the difference between DE and DEM? Yeah, it's like English, they and them. The problem is that they are pronounced the same way. They and them. It is subject, they do something, and we hate them. Vi hatar dem. Yeah. And then we have reflexive pronoun. Reflexive pronouns. Yeah, basically, if you see here, check the third person. Third person. It is say. Say. It's using say, as well as third person plural. Jag mig. Du dig, right? And reflexive pronouns are used, pretty much like in English. Linda tvättar Linda. Linda is washing Linda. It means that she is washing herself, right? It is reflexive. But of course, as you know, it is not that very easy with Swedish. Linda gifter sig. Yeah, it sounds like that Linda is marrying herself. And is it possible? Is it possible? Yeah, there is someone who actually married himself in Brazil, and it's called sologamist. 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 And sologamist, well, the thing is, in Swedish, when you say gifta sig, by the way, it's from tax agency, you don't marry yourself. Simply, there are some verbs, they require this reflexive pronoun, even though it sounds like to marry oneself, to marry yourself in Sweden. No, it means that to marry. In English, you will say just marry. So at some points, they just require these reflexive pronouns. And in English, not all verbs need that. For example, you don't marry yourself, right? Yeah, what about possessive pronouns? Belonging, right? Possession, if you think of this possession, to possess something. Possession implies material or non-material things. It can be a book, it can be a dream, right? Your dream. It means that it is applied on substantive. So when we speak about possessive pronouns, we speak about substantive, because you have to own something, whether it is material or immaterial. Well, if we speak about substantive, inevitably we have to speak if it's n-word or at-word. We don't get away from this. If we deal with substantive, we have to know if it's article, n-word or at-words, right? Also plural, that's also important. And then first and second plural and singular person are similar to indefinite adjective. Do you remember those indefinite adjective? You have n-words, adjective applied for n-word get nothing, at-word get t, and then we have a for plural. It's similar to that. So if we take this example, we have en lampa, ett hus och böcker, right? N-word, at-word, plural. If we want to speak about possession, you will say min lampa, mitt hus, mina böcker. So that's why possessive pronouns are similar to this indefinite adjective. So possessive pronoun, we have this model. And of course, it is sometimes confused due to reflexive possessive, because you don't have it in English. And it makes confusion. So reflexive possessive, it applies only the third person singular and plural. Do you remember, guys, we said about third person? It's he, she, it. It's they. It is third person. It works as indefinite adjective according, so to say, gender, n-word, at-word, or plural word. So reflexive possessive can never be subject in the sentence. For that purpose, we use only possessive. Förstår? You will see more examples in a while. And the reflexive possessive is only object in the sentence. Obviously, it can never be subject. It can only be object in the sentence. Well, if we look at some examples before that, look at the scheme. Do you remember I said it is applied only for the third person? So reflexive possessive is applied only third person singular, third person plural. Sin, sit, sina. Yeah. So here is the warning. Why? Confusing possessive pronouns and the reflexive possessive can have a fatal consequences, I promise you. If you say something like han älskar sin fru, which means he loves his wife, versus han älskar hans fru, he loves his wife, also in English. But it may have a fatal consequences, because in the first case, he loves his own wife. It is reflexive. At the second case, somebody was less fortunate, or somebody was more fortunate. Depends on the perspective. Yeah. So possessive pronoun, what we say about possessive pronoun, that they can be used as subject and object in the sentence. So it is possessive. When it is used as object, then object is this in the sentence does not refer to subject. And we will look at it. Linda pratar med Sandras syster, right? And here Linda pratar med hennes syster. So hennes is our possessive pronoun, but hennes does refer to Sandras syster and not Lindas syster. Förstår ni? So possessive pronoun used like this in object, it refers to somebody else. Linda har en syster. Hennes syster bor i Göteborg. Yes, here it refers to her own sister, because, do you remember, when we have subject can never be seen. Never. It can never be sin syster. Så Linda och hennes syster kommer imorgon. Linda och hennes syster kommer imorgon, right? So here, Linda och hennes syster. This is subject in the sentence. And do you remember, guys, we can never say Linda och sin syster kommer imorgon, because it is subject in the sentence. If it's subject, it requires possessive pronoun. And when it comes to reflexive possessive, it can be used only as object, while possessive can be used both way, right? Both object and subject. Reflexive possessive, when it's used, then object refers to subject itself, because here it did not refer to Linda, it referred to Sandra. But here you see that Linda pratar med Lindas syster, which means Linda talks to her Linda's sister, so she is talking to her own sister, right? So Linda pratar med sin syster. And you will never say sin syster bor i Göteborg. You will never say it, because if you have subject, it must be only possessive pronoun and not reflexive possessive. So it's wrong. Yeah. So we have also indefinite pronoun. Yeah, they are a bit confusing overall. I can say that, I can promise you. But yeah, någon, someone or something, and then we have n-word, at-word, plural, right? Ingen, inget, inga. Basically, same mechanism works here. N-word, at-word, plural. So if you take, for example, this examples with lamp, house, books, you see en lampa, ett hus, böcker, right? Någon lampa, it is indefinite. Remember, indefinite. Some lamp, some house, some books. You see that it works the same way. Någon, något, because it's at-word, and några, because it's plural. As well as you will say min lampa, mitt hus, mina böcker. So if you know this mechanism, it can be applied to many other grammatical functions. Annan lampa, another lamp. Annat hus, another house. Andra böcker, other books. Någon lampa, något hus, några böcker, right? And then you have ingen lampa, no lamp. Inget hus, jag har inget hus. I have no house, right? So you have this no. I have no books, jag har inga böcker. The same way, it works the same way. Yeah, and then the most famous ingen is applied to ingen reklam. I think those of you who live in Sweden see it quite often at the neighbors' doors. Ingen reklam, tack. So it is very famous, ingen, because reklam is n-word, right? If it was at-word, we would have t here. Yeah, how do you know någon lampa? Do you have any lamp? Nej, jag har ingen lampa. Jag vill ha en annan lampa. Basically, that's how it works. Yeah, but. Någon as indefinite is some, any, but någon as independent is someone or anyone. So we have indefinite and we have independent. Be careful for that. You will see. So indefinite, we have these words. It's the same words, but they are indefinite. Any, some, it is some objects, items that, yeah, we don't know, any book. And then we have equal no. I have no house, right? So if we apply to this indefinite pronoun, so to say, these substantives, n-words, at-words, plural, yeah, it works like this. But But here we have independent. So this can also be independently. And independently, these words mean slightly different things. Någon means someone. Något means something. Några means some, any. And then we have ingen, no one, nobody. Inget, nothing. And we have inga, none of. Basically, it is plural of nobody. It's a plural of nobody. Ja. Inga av mina vänner bor i Göteborg. Right? None of my friends live in Gothenburg. So, inga. So you see, it is applied to person. None of my friends live in Gothenburg. But of course, you have to, make sure that you have right endings. Mina, plural, inga. You have to check this when you learn those indefinite articles, because they basically, the function is the same, right? Plural a, adverb t, right? N word gets nothing. But there is a warning. Some of you who heard this song, my name is Inga and I'm from Sweden, right? Because Inga bor i Göteborg is a name. Inga is a name as well. So don't confuse that, please. Ja, så är det. Något can be said or written as någonting, någonting. Inget is the same thing as ingenting. So if you will see in the book, it's the same thing. Yeah, and now we have something interesting going on. Let's see. Indefinite pronoun. Yeah, that's my favorite. Margrit, right? Margrit is my favorite. Those of you who are into art probably already realized what it is about, or those of you who are into literature, maybe think of Thomas Mann. Yeah, Mann is with one N, but here it is one. Sorry, Mann is with two N, but this one is with one. Yeah, Mann is a bit confusing because it is like more German. For Germans, it is not a problem, but for English, it is a problem. It is a problem. But in English, you have something equivalent. You have this one or you. Yeah, general. I think you will love general term here because it is used as a general term. It's a general one, you, when we don't speak about someone specific, right? Used in general statements. It is not referring to someone specific. It does not refer to any man, like masculine or a husband. It can be interpreted as one, you, people, they, we, depending on the context. So as a translator, you are free to choose which one it is, depending on the context, of course. And man can refer to masculine men too, and a general one. So yes, here in man, I see a man. It's a masculine, right? And then we have min man heter Oscar. My husband's name is Oscar, right? And then we have man kan om man vill. You can if you want. You can. So you don't say one. Yeah, man can if man wants. No, it's you can or one can if one wants. Or in English, probably in better English, it will be you can if you want. It depends on the situation. So as you understand, this man can be translated a bit differently. Yeah. What about marrying yourself? You remember sologamist? We have sologamist in Sweden. We marry we marry with ourselves. So what about being pregnant? What about men getting pregnant? Yeah, some of you I see are skeptical, but hur blir man gravid? How does one become pregnant, right? This man, it is general term. It's not referring to man, right? How does how does one generally human get pregnant? So be cautious for that man. And this man can be in this how you say? Yeah, in subject it's man, in object it's n, Reflexive, it's say. Possessive, it's ens, man and ens. And then we have, yeah, since it's in is reflexive. That's how you deal with man. And then you have some demonstrative pronouns. Den här, det där. Sorry, den här, ja, det här, de här, den här, det där, de här. So basically it's these. So depending on N word, right? Depending on at word, and it's plural. And then you have den, där, that. And then you have those plural, these and those. Basically pretty much similar to English. But they require definite form of substantive and definite form of adjective, right? So if you take this beautiful lamp, den här fina lampan, you see guys, we have den här, it's our demonstrative pronoun, and demonstrative pronoun den här requires definite form of adjective and definite form of substantive. That's what it is. Den där fina lampan, that beautiful lamp. So definite form of adjective, and then you have definite form of substantive. That's important to understand. Yeah. And then you have den här, denna, det här, detta, dessa. You can see these words. In case you see these words, then you know that it's basically demonstrative pronouns, but cautious that if you say den här bilen, it is definite form of substantive, but you will say denna bil. So this requires indefinite form of substantive. Yeah. What about word order? Now you might think that, okay, what's going on here? Yeah, I see, but it's not really what we're talking about, at least at the moment. It's about the word order. It's about the word order. So to say, the arrangement of the sentence. And I would say like this. If you are a beginner, don't bother yourself with word order because it makes no sense. Why to care about word order if you actually lacking of vocabulary, right? So don't bother yourself with word order. If you are a beginner, A1 level, leave it for A2 level. You will have more benefit, less pain if you leave it to the later stage of your learning. Yeah, so when we speak about word order, we speak about syntax. Syntax. Swedish syntax is different than English, and I guess to some extent is more difficult than English syntax. What about word order? We have to know what is subject. And remember, guys, once and for all, subject is not substantive, even though they sound somehow similarly, right? Subject and substantive has nothing to do in common. Subject is a part of a sentence, while substantive is a word class. They are not comparable. They are not even from the same category, so to say. Subject is the active part of a sentence. Subject is not limited to one word. Subject can be many words. So there are different word orders. You have to know that. There are different types of sentences, simple and complex sentences. Simple sentence consists of one main clause, what we call huvudsats. And main clause can be straight or reversed. So main clause is relatively flexible. Complex sentence consists of several clauses. It can be multiple main clause and subordinate clause, what we say bisats. Subordinate clause has own word order, so it has different word order than huvudsats. Subordinate clause depends on main clause, and it is not flexible as main clause because you have only one option. Yeah, so main clause, it is also known as independent clause. You can call it as main or independent, it's up to you. And clause, when we say clause, I mean, what do we mean by clause? It's a logical unit, and we don't speak about the one word. We speak about statement, logical unit that is like statement that makes sense by itself. Main clause normally has at least subject and predicate, which is verb. It's a verb. There are many grammatical terms that are sort of overlapping and can be confusing. I don't want to be too grammatical, so I think, yeah, if we say just verb, it will be easier. One sentence usually has at least one main clause. So normal sentence, any normal sentence usually has at least one main clause. Yeah. Jag äter, I'm eating, right? So it is our main clause. Do you remember we said that we spoke about logical unit statement that makes sense by itself. Jag äter, I'm eating. Does it make sense? Yes, why not? It makes sense. But it doesn't have to be that simple, right? It can be a bit more complex. Jag ska promenera efter maten. I will take a walk. I will walk after the food. It is still simple sentence, and it is main clause. So main clause, it's a logical unit. And now here we have och jag äter och jag ska promenera efter maten. I eat and I will take a walk after the food. So this och is conjunction. It is conjunction. It's a coordinating conjunction. It coordinates one main clause with other main clause. Förstår ni? So we have one main clause, so one huvudsats and second huvudsats, and och is conjunction, and not just conjunction, it's coordinating conjunction. It coordinates two different main clause. Yeah, and if we look at subordinate clause, it also called as dependent clause. In Swedish, it's bisats. Subordinate clause is depending on the information from main clause. In other words, subordinate clause makes no sense by itself. Subordinate clause has different word order that we mentioned before. So if we take this example again, eating and walking, let's see. And let's say like this, you are walking and now you see some great place to eat a wrap snack, right? And you are eating and walking. So what do we have here? Jag äter medan jag promenerar. So what we have here? Medan jag promenerar, I eat while I walk, right? This yellow part makes no sense alone. So you can say I eat, I'm eating, but you cannot really say while I walk because it makes itself really no sense. So by that mean, bisats is dependent on huvudsats. So medan in this case, it is also conjunction, but it is subordinating conjunction. It is subjunction. Yes, some books, they will call it subjunction, but grammatically it is conjunction too, but it has this subordinating function. So medan is our bisatsinledare. It is our bisatsinledare. Don't confuse it with bisats, because bisats is the complete yellow part, complete sentence. Förstår ni? Yeah. And we have huvudsats. Jag äter. So huvudsats can be shorter or can be even longer. It doesn't have to be that short, right? We saw it previously before. Yeah. Okay. Let's see. So once again, do not confuse bisatsinledare with bisats. They are not same things. Bisats is complete sentence. Bisatsinledare is one word, or it can be one phrase, short phrase. Yeah, huvudsats and bisats have different word order. We said that many times. A sentence can start with bisats. Jag äter medan jag promenerar. You remember this example? So when it starts with bisats, you would say like this. Medan jag promenerar äter jag. So in this case, we have huvudsats, bisats, and we have bisats, huvudsats. If we continue with our huvudsats, main clause, the rule number 1 is that position of the verb predicate is always number 2. So remember that when you speak about main clause, think of this rule. Position of the verb is number 2. Position 2 does not mean as a second word. Jag äter mat. I eat food, right? Äter is the verb. You have subject, verb, object. And then if you compare to that sentence, min mamma äter mat. So again, subject, verb, object. Min mamma äter. So äter is a verb. It's a second position, but we don't mean that it is the second word. So don't confuse it. Second position, it means that when you have expressed whatever it is here, after that expression, the second place is reserved for the verb. It is reserved. As if you go to the restaurant, it's reserved, so to say. Yeah, good thing. Now it's the time for logic. What's the logic behind Swedish word order? If you understand this, I think it will help you really a lot in the future, I promise you. Yeah, and I'm not speaking about astronomy. You're probably thinking what's going on here, but it's more about the concept of arbitration. Think of the arbitration, whereas subject can be as a moon and verb is as the Earth, our planet, because subject is going around the verb all the time. Yeah. If we compare Swedish verbs to other languages, if you take Italian, right, vado, or if you take Azeri, where you say chiederam, so those endings, they already reveal who is doing. I am going, right? I'm going. You don't need to have personal pronoun. You don't need to have I here, because these endings can tell you, also in Greek language, right? Also in Romanian, these endings, they tell you, I mean, who is doing and actually when it was, and if it's past tense or future. So it's more complex. But the good thing with Swedish that it is, you don't have this kind of stuff in Swedish. But therefore, it is important that you have verb and subject and verb as close as possible. This is the logic that in Swedish language, the verb går itself doesn't tell any information. You need to have subject, either subject verb or verb subject. They must keep together. So if we look at our huvudsats, we can see that they are relatively flexible. They can start with subject, straight word order, right? When we start a sentence with subject, it is straight word order. If you did not start your sentence with subject, then it is reversed word order. So it can be any kind of reversed word order, as far as you did not start with subject. So rule number 2 is that if you did not start your sentence with subject, then subject must come immediately after the first verb in the sentence. This is important to remember. Your huvudsats can start with place. It's reversed word order. Your sentence can start with time, reversed again. It can also start with object in the beginning, but I don't recommend you to experiment with having object in the beginning of the sentence unless the word, your object word, is then or that. You will see it. I think, yeah, some of you have already noticed that. So when we speak about huvudsats, we have also this inte, don't, right? Don't. If we take the example, I'm eating, or I want, jag vill, jag vill inte. So inte comes after the first verb. Remember that. Inte comes after the first verb. Jag vill äta, jag vill inte äta. You see guys, we have one verb here, inte, and then second verb. So inte comes after the first verb. What about jag vill inte äta nu? Jag vill inte äta nu. Equally, we can say nu vill jag inte äta. What happened here? If you look at this sentence, you see inte comes not after the verb, but after jag. Why? Do you remember? We spoke about rule number 2, and rule number 2 was the arbitration. Do you remember? We spoke about arbitration, that subject. If you did not start a sentence with subject, subject must come immediately after the first verb, and then everything else. So rule number 3 is inte comes after the first verb, but we have rule number 2 says that, if you did not start with subject, well, then subject comes after the verb. Nu is time. Vill jag. So they, verb, subject must keep together, as in other cases too. They must be as close as possible, because vill alone doesn't give you information who is doing that. That's a logic, basically. So when we have inte, it is satsadverb. This kind of words we call for satsadverb. And inte is one of the most famous, but there are many. So I have here some list, but of course it's slightly bigger than that. You need to learn what is satsadverb in the future when you are going to build your own sentences. Yeah, my own formula for that, should I have taken patent for that? Need some help from lawyers, is jag kommer hit imorgon. Just remember this sentence, guys. It's easy. Jag kommer hit imorgon. Whereas jag kommer imorgon hit will be wrong, because you must have place and time. Jag kommer hit imorgon. Just remember this sentence and you will apply it to everything else. You don't have to think then again. Or you could say equally, imorgon kommer jag hit. That will be fine. That is reversed word order. But here we have straight word order. Yeah, what about this beautiful tea party? Ja, jag dricker te hemma klockan 5. Right? It's a straight word order because it starts with subject. So we have subject, verb, object, place, and time. Jag dricker te hemma klockan 5. And then we have reversed word order, omvänd ordföljd. Whereas we want to start with object. Then remember, guys, in the main clause, huvudsats, the second place is reserved for the verb. So it will look like this. Te dricker jag hemma klockan 5. Well, of course, it's not recommended to say like this in this particular case, but there are some sentences where to start with object will be perfectly fine, and usually it is with den or det. Then we have plats as at the beginning. So hemma, at home. Yeah, again, verb second place. And then subject must come immediately after the verb, right? We did not start with subject. Tid plus verb plus subject, etc. So then it will be klockan 5 dricker jag te hemma. So of course, at some cases, it is good to emphasize the time or place. In this particular case, the other options are not really perfect, but grammatically it's fine. So both straight and reversed word orders are models for main clause. So both this and all of this, it is model for main clause. What about word order in question sentence? Ja. Var bor du? It is question word, like where do you live? So question word, and then you have a verb, second place. And then you remember, if you did not start with subject, subject must come after the verb. This is basically a reversed word order. And then we have sort of yes or no question. Of course, you can answer like maybe, but yeah, I understand. Do you live in Stockholm? Bor du i Stockholm? Then you start the sentence with the verb bor du. So you remember, we don't have here a subject, so subject must come after the verb. So here it is verb plus subject. Yeah. What about this eating man? Jag äter medan jag promenerar. I'm eating while I'm walking. It's bisats and it is huvudsats. Medan jag promenerar. So now we start the sentence with bisats. Äter jag. Did you notice what happened here? If we start with bisats and then we go to huvudsats, you see, if we start with bisats and going to huvudsats, we have to continue with the verb. So you don't say ja, medan jag promenerar, jag äter. You say äter jag. So transition from bisats to huvudsats happens with the assistance of the verb. But what applies to bisats? Rule number one for bisats is that bisats is not flexible. If you notice here, medan jag promenerar, it looks exactly the same here. It's same whether it is at the second part of the sentence or whether it's at the beginning of the sentence. Yeah. So what do we have here? We continue with the tea party. Jag vill inte. It is main clause, right? And then you say jag vill inte dricka kaffe. I don't want to drink coffee, says Alice. And then one of the guests says drick te om du inte vill dricka kaffe. So in both these cases, you can see that inte comes after the first verb. So here is one verb, but here is two verbs, but inte comes after the first verb. But if you look here, inte comes before the verb. Why? Because here we deal with bisats. And om is one of those bisats inledare that initiates this subordinated sentence or subordinated clause, so to say. So when you have bisats, in bisats inte comes before the first verb. That is rule number 3 for bisats. That in bisats inte comes before the verb. This after the verb applied for main clause. This inte vill applies for subordinated clause. Yeah, so examples of subjunctions, bisats inledare. So you remember, guys, subjunctions are also conjunctions, but they have this subordinating function. När, medan, om, innan, därför, att. But they are more, of course. It's just some examples. So when you see these words that cautious, it means that whenever you see these words, it means that you start your subordinated sentence or clause, subordinated clause, and it means that if you have subordinated clause, you have a different word order. I mean, why otherwise would you care if it's subordinated or not, right? It's about word order. So bisats inledare, subjunctions, can be like om, när, eftersom. Yeah, it's like if, when, since. And then we have subject. Subject comes directly after the bisats inledare. So if you think that the word order of subordinate clause. We have, first of all, bisatsinledare. And then after bisatsinledare, we have subject. After subject comes satsadverb, if given. For example, inte, right? Alltid, ofta. And after satsadverb comes first verb. This is the word order of subordinate clause. And word order of bisats is not flexible. It means that it remains same as it is. Yeah, that's a great meme describing Swedish prepositions. I fear no man, but that thing, Swedish prepositions, it scares me, and it should. You should be very skeptical. You should be very skeptical to those prepositions. And what can I recommend you at all? What can I say about Swedish prepositions? Well, don't try to find solution in English by using English as the reference to Swedish prepositions or any other language, unless you don't compare it with, I don't know, even Norwegian is not matching sometimes. So yeah, the problem with prepositions is that you are trying to comparing it with English. Don't do that. Don't. It is not helping a lot, I can promise you. So anytime you see prepositions innocent like this, i, på, över, under, för, till, yeah, which, you know, innocently sounds like, yeah, pretty much English, right? But they have much more different usage. For example, you will say till exempel, right? You say på svenska, and you don't say in Swedish, the på svenska. So prepositions, they deserve their own webinar itself, I promise you. But overall, I just say that you should not try to, you know, find sort of find analogies. Sometimes it makes no sense. For example, if you are sitting on sofa, right? In Swedish, you are sitting in the sofa. Well, yeah. So don't compare it with your reference language. That's what I say about prepositions. And our verbs. What's the deal with our verbs? Things that you do, right? That is the verb, action. So it can be mental or physically, right? Actions can be different kind of actions. If you are eating, playing, singing, right? Or if you are dreaming, loving, or imagining something, right? It is mental actions. And in Swedish, you don't really have something as present continuous. You use only one form. So, and in Swedish, you don't have this verb do to assist another verb, like, do you understand? In Swedish, you will say, understand you, förstår du? So you don't have any do in Swedish to assist another verb. Yeah. And then we can say that verbs, they have different forms. And what we are interested of, it's tempos. Tempos is tense. So we have infinitive, basic form, imperative when you're commanding or giving recommendation, presence, which happens now, preteritum, simple past tense, and you have perfect supinum, plusquamperfect that you don't need at the moment, and then you have futurum, future. And plusquamperfect is basically past perfect. You had done something. It's easy, but you don't need it for that A1, A2 level. Yeah. 5 verb groups according to their endings. We have different group endings. This is like substantive. I don't usually recommend my students to go around and think which verb is which group, but it's maybe good to know that something like this exists. And basically it is to sort of to help us to predict the forms in the preteritum. But again, in order to understand this, you need to have a reference. You need to know lots of words or verbs to be able to make this categorization. So don't start with that before, I would say B1, I guess. But interestingly, I can say that 42% of the verbs are ending with DE. They are, so to say, it's a simple verbs. The majority of them are simple. Yeah, so if we start with the infinitive, the infinite form, and what do we mean by infinite form? If you think of this Buzz Lightyear, when he said to infinity and beyond, right? Infinite is not limited to time and space, right? Therefore, it is infinite. Infinite. There is no limitation. So if you say the verb to do, it is not limited to some person. It is not limited to some time. It is not in the future. It is not in the past. It is unlimited. Therefore, it is called infinitive. And infinitives in Swedish usually ends with a, letter a. And basically, all the other verbs are finite verbs. They are finite. And here we have imperative. And imperative is, it's a Latin terminology which comes from this imperator, the commander, right? If you think of Caesar, he was a commander and giving commands, imperative. Many people confuse infinitive with imperative, but if you remember this stuff, probably it will help you a bit. So when you give command, request, recommendation, you have this form, do it, right? Many Swedish infinitive form have similar identical form as imperative. Yeah, this is also a confusing part with Swedish, but you will get used to it. And for example, att prata. You see, prata is, you see, infinitive, and prata, it is imperative. They are identical in shape, which can be partially to our benefit, as we don't need to learn extra form for that, but can be confusing for sure. And imperative exists in Swedish only in presence. Yeah, you may be thinking, what do you mean by that? Well, in some languages, I mean, in Latin at least, you have also the past tense of imperative, but it's not applied for many languages. Yeah, as well as Swedish, so to say. Presence. What about presence? Basically, presence is what's happening now. When you see a verb ending to r is usually indicating that we have a present tense. R is going to be your friend. So get friended. Be friended with letter R, because it will help you to identify if the verb is present or not. For example, if you say jag pratar, jag gör, jag äter, right? They have r at the end. There are verbs in presence ending with s. Yeah, that's also true. They are either reciprocal verbs like träffas, or passive voice, ätas, or deponent in English and deponens is in Swedish. It's a false passive voice. They look passive, but by logic they cannot be passive, right? For example, andas, breathing, hoppas, hope. You don't want to passively breathe, right? You don't want to hope passively. It's just deponent. They look passive, and but they are not passive by its meaning. So they don't have any active form. They are as they are. But they are not so many, so we can be happy for that. When it comes to preteritum, sounds almost like Harry Potter stuff. Wingardium Leviosa. Preteritum. Preteritum is not imperfect, because some languages they call it for imperfect, but in Swedish you don't really have imperfect verbs. But the concept is somehow the same, right? More or less, it is simple past tense. And in English, you have ed ending in simple past tense is equal to Swedish de. So if you say if you say I played versus jag spelade. And do you remember, guys, these DE verbs, they are like 42%. It is one big group. So DE is a common ending for the verbs. And then you have preteritum, that endings indication are DE. Preteritum endings indications are DE, DDE, and TE, TTE. So whenever you see DE, DDE, TE, and TTE, you understand that it is simple past tense. It is simple past tense. Yeah. So these are your friends when it comes to preteritum. Jag spelade, you see guys. Jag bodde, DDE. Jag köpte. We have T. And then you have irregular verbs in Swedish, unfortunately. So it's like English. Jag gick, jag går, jag gick. I go, I went. So you need to just remember them. There are no patterns for irregular verbs. We have perfect supinum. So in Swedish, both terms are used. Sometimes you will see it perfect or supinum, and you know it is referring to the same tense. Jag har gjort, I have done. And usually it ends with T or double T, right? T or double T. Then you know that it is supinum. And then, as in English, Swedish use the same verb have to assist perfect. For example, jag har ätit. Jag har ätit, jag har bott. So you have this assisting help verb to create supinum. What about futurum, the future? Yeah, the future, you use ska plus infinitive form of the verb. So ska is your friend. Ska is equal to English shall and will. It depends on the context. And Swedish vill is not equal to English will. If you say jag ska äta, it means I will eat. And jag vill äta, it's I want to eat. It's my desire. So vill is not, it's false friend with English, will. You can build future by present form and plus time. What do we mean by that? Jag kommer imorgon, right? If you look at kommer, it's a present, and then you have time. Jag kommer imorgon, yeah, it means I will come tomorrow. You can also say jag ska komma imorgon. Jag ska komma imorgon, or jag kommer imorgon. You see, compare. We have ska komma, which is ska plus infinitive, and here we have pure present form and time. That's how we build future. Yeah, what about a little bit of metaphysics? Who is fan of metaphysics? What about the future in the past? Yeah, it can happen. It can happen. Futurum praeteritum, future in the past. It is, but to understand that, you need to understand ska is shall and will, while skulle is should and would. So skulle, you plus infinitive, you get that metaphysical future in the past. Jag skulle komma igår. Jag skulle komma igår. I should come yesterday. So that's the future in the past. Yeah, I think I covered those important grammatical moments, and I will just mention about TISUS examination. TISUS is the most authoritative examination in Swedish language. It is equal to IELTS or TOEFL for English. But also you have to understand that TISUS is not only a certificate, it is also your national degree. if you want to study in Swedish university in Swedish language, you need to have a certain degree of Swedish language, and TISUS is the test that you do. Just it's one test, and then you are done. Then you have showed that you prove that you know Swedish very well. And unlike IELTS, it does not expire. So you can see that next TISUS session or test is the 10th of May, and then after that it will be in November. Usually they have it in May and November. So this is TISUS. Those of you who, yeah, depending on what is your pursuing, what are you pursuing with Swedish language. But overall, I will say like this: if you want to have sort of a certificate, target TISUS, and because all the other certificates are, yeah, just certificate, but this is also national grade. And I see that Peggy has a question. Yes, please.
How do I get the recording of this? Because I came late.
Oh, yeah. I will put it in our YouTube channel. I will send you. Oh, yeah. Thank you. Thank you. Bra. Good question. Yes. Yeah. So this is about TISUS. Also, I can, as a tool, recommend you this Lexin. Some of you have seen this, some of you not. It's a good page where you can find about the words. You can see if it's adverb or adjective, if it's a verb. So this is a very useful tool to use, Lexin. Yeah, restart. Well, some of you have seen these books, and I can say that they are definitely not good books. They are over what do you call it? Yeah, people. I don't know. It is very, except design. These books have good design, but overall, for self-study, it is really useless. It is overrated book. I don't know why they are promoting this book, because the same publisher, has done much better books. For some reason, they promote these books. Yeah, they are also expensive, but it's not about that. It is more about the books are not really useful unless if you do not like pick up the cherries. For example, I use some text that I think, okay, this is fine, but otherwise, yeah, Restart is really not good books for self-studying. Yeah. What I would, on the other hand, recommend, what I'm doing with my own students, it is Språkvägen B, and this is a new edition. It is for A1 level. It is for A1 level, but if you want to complete A1 level, I will say Språkvägen, it's not enough. You need to have, for example, Framåt B. I'm using both of them to cover those vocabularies, because one Språkvägen is not really enough. And for A2 level, I would recommend these books. Personally, I use Språkvägen C because, yeah, it's a continuation of that book. But I will say these books are also really great for A2 level. I'm personally, maybe I consider to change, because I've been working with that book. And of course, it's, yeah, sort of, you're not really willing to change stuff that is already working. But I can say that these are really good books for A2 level. But on the other hand, if you speak about B1 level, then of some reason Språkvägen did a very poor job, as well as Mål 2 or Mål 3 is not really suitable for B1 level. I cannot say anything for Sport because I worked with that book in the B1 level. So I don't know how they did at the lane. But this particular book, Sport 2C, it's really good for A2 level. Yeah. And if you want to have alternative books, I would say it is Nya Mål. It is a bit older books, but they are really good books. They are really good books, and they cover really everything. So it's for A1 from Mål 1, Nya Mål 1 to Nya Mål 3, A1 to B2. Absolutely recommended books. Yeah, they are perfect actually. The only yeah, I don't know. Yeah, bad thing. I'm not a bad thing, but at that time they did not make any audio, because for these books and for this book, you have audio files accessible for everyone, and you have also online how you say exercise that you can do. I will show you how you can access them. It's accessible for everyone. How you can work with the books and get maximum of that. But about these books, I don't remember that they had any this kind of platforms. What about Duolingo? Yes, my dears, I definitely not recommending it. Duolingo is so bad that I cannot I cannot even I should not even speak about it, because it is damaging your attention span, and I will say that any serious learner should not even mention that Duolingo thing at all. It is this idea in 2020 is like, I have an app, the application will do the job for me. Well, it's laughable. You have to work yourself. The application will not do anything. That you have imagine that you have something in the mobile and you're in the bus. How much concentration do you have actually, right? Because the same thing, if I ask you tomorrow what you have done today and you got your scores, because I see that people share their scores, you will not remember anything. Yeah, of course there is something good about Duolingo, but seriously, no, it's really bad. If you are so much into the working with computers or apps, yeah, at least Rosetta Stone is better. I will say Rosetta Stone is much better for that. Yeah, again, apps. Well, I'm not the app person, but yet there are some Hey Svenska apps that are good for A1 level. It's like primitive vocabulary. Yeah, if you want to gain vocabulary for the beginning, Hey Svenska can be something for you. If you like to work with apps so desperately, so to say. And then you have this page, Svenska Akelius. They have also some online exercise. You can also work with that if you like to. We have Språkappen from SVT, and SVT is also available like how you call it, database, so to say. They have movies, they have TV documentaries, etc. You can really use SVT Play as your source of for the pronunciation, for reading. They have subtitles, everything. So SVT is an ultimate free resource for those who intend to learn it seriously. SVT is really great. It's free. Yes, if you live abroad, if you live in the United States, you might have some limitations, but therefore you have a VPN. We have also a free VPN. You can try it for 2 weeks easily and see, completely free, and try and see how it works. Free VPN is a Swedish VPN, so it works. It has a really good speed. You can simply download it. Download and access it. Try it 2 weeks and see if you like it. Yeah, why not? It doesn't cost so much, a couple of dollars. I don't know, maybe $2-3 per month. Shana, questions?
Yeah, sorry to interrupt you in middle,
No worries.
but I just wanted to know that how can I get your slide? At least it will be easier for me to learn easily.
Did you contact me by email?
Yeah.
Yeah, okay, then I will contact you. Absolutely.
Okay, thank you so much.
Thank you.
And it was a nice lecture. I really enjoyed a lot. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you. So I've suggested you to work with Språkvägen books for A1 and A2 levels. The reason why I suggest Språkvägen series, at least for A1 and A2 levels, it's simply because these books include good texts that are with a good vocabulary that are more useful. Unfortunately, Restart, despite having a great design, it has lots of unnecessary words, and the texts are not always relevant. The texts are not always relevant for the learners. So therefore, I simply would suggest you Språkvägen, and it's not only my personal preference. I've got lots of messages from the various students saying about Restart that they could not study at their own with this particular book. But of course, Restart has also nice features, and we will speak about it too. So when it comes to Språkvägen, they have also their online platform where you can listen to the audio files. So here we have, for example, for the A1 level. So the book, so don't be confused. It says here course B, but this is applied for SFI, and SFI's course B is our Common European Framework A1 level. So you can, for example, choose chapter, and then you can choose the theme, and then you can have access to the audio file, for example.
En stressig dag.
So you can listen and even download. And then you can also, for example, find different exercises. Of course, when it comes to the word order, well, I don't think that you need to bother yourself with a word order, at least in A1 level, but nevertheless, there is this possibility. You can work with that too. So you simply choose, you see that it's a word order, and they want to start with subject that we spoke about, right? The active part. So we choose Han vaknar klockan 6, and then you correct yourself, and then let's say that you choose wrongly, you will see that it will ask you to take away the wrong answers, so to say. And then you can see the other exercise that can be of interest if you're working on your own. You have also the grammar. If you go down, you can see that there are grammar exercises, for example, verb forms. So you will fill in the right verb forms. Do you remember, guys? So if we have ska, it means that we are building future form, and then we need to choose infinitive, simply. And then let's say that we choose the wrong answer. So he studied yesterday, but we choose presence. You see, it tells that's a wrong answer. So what I like about Språkvägen, it's simple interface. It's very useful friendly, so to say. The usability, they have great user experience design. So yeah, you have those grammar stuff, all kind of exercise, yeah, even prepositions. Do you remember I mentioned that prepositions are something to be remembered, even though, yeah, there are some innocent similarities with English, but overall you need to see them, yeah, case by case. It is different story. Also, you have Språkvägen book C, right? It says course C, but remember, course C, it is A2 level, because this course C is applied for SFI, and they have their own system, which is, yeah, different than Common European Framework. So equally there, you have all those chapters. You can take a listen. You press on the audio file.
Oprah Winfrey.
Yeah, and you have audio file, you can listen. And then for this C course, yeah, or A2 course, then you should concentrate on the word order. So here it starts, for example, rak ordföljd. It's a straight word order. this is important to work with if you are A2 student. So here they want you to start with subject, right? Then you go with opera, föddes i USA. So correct answer, right? And then, for instance, you have also those subordinate clause. So here you have straight word order, here you have reverse word order. You will start in this exercise with time, in this exercise you will start with place, and here you have reversed word order, or sorry, a subordinated sentence or clause, subordinate clause. And what is really good about this exercise is that this exercise allows you to learn all these bisats inledare, subjunctions, those subordinate conjunctions, so to say. Do you remember we spoke about conjunctions, and those conjunctions that are subordinating, we call them for subjunctions, or in Swedish simply bisats inledare. So throughout this exercise, all the words, all the options that you are going to see through all this exercise, they are bisats inledare, and it is very good to remember it. It's very good to remember all of them. Of course, you don't do it probably by first exercise, but of course, if you work out through the entire book, you will for sure remember all of them. So it's a really, really great opportunity to learn this way all those subjunctions, because in bisats, you have your word order different than in huvudsats. Therefore, it's really good way to exercise. So, and then finally you have, again, yeah, word order, you have to choose. Do you remember we mentioned that you can start a sentence with huvudsats and continue then with bisats? Also, there are occasions where you start with bisats and then continue with huvudsats. So we said also that when you start your bisats inledare, this is one of those words, bisats inledare, and then you have to continue with subject. So priority goes subject, simply. So this is also very great exercise for learning word order. So if you are working with A2 course, then you should absolutely concentrate on word orders. And this exercise, I don't think that it's applied for you guys. It's for them, usually for the people who are, who has really difficulty with writing. So yeah, don't bother yourself with this exercise. When it comes to Restart, of course, Restart as a book, it is not optimal unless you don't pick up the cherries from that book. But Restart has also a good platform where you can work online. So you can connect to their platform. Let's see. Yeah. And then you can, for example, choose any chapter, right? You choose a chapter. You have also audio files.
Kapitel 2. 1.
To those different texts. And then you have also exercise if you want so. So here they have also exercise on word order, conjunctions, verb. So you can, for example, choose this one, and then you see you have to fill in the verb. Let's see, you have also prepositions, which is also, good way to, so you need to choose one of those options. It's a, good way if you're learning at your own. So you have this kind of options, and even, so all of these platforms, they are free to access. You don't need to have any account. For Restart, you just need to have yeah, Google account or Facebook, I think also would be fine. So yeah, absolutely, you can use these tools, and if you use these books that I mentioned, plus if you use these web exercise, then you will use these materials in the most optimal way. Even though I have to also say that usually, if you have time, of course, yeah, if you have limited time, and most of you time, right? I would say like this: you should not focus so much on the exercise, like yeah, on this kind of exercise. If you have limited time, you should rather concentrate on the vocabulary, learning vocabulary, because the problem with this kind of exercise is that you are working with it automatically. And if I would ask you the same thing probably after 1 week, yeah, I don't think that you will recall so much of it. So if you have limited time, concentrate on the texts and on the vocabulary. Of course, it's not that important what the text is about, as far as the vocabulary is nice, that you, I mean, the text with useful vocabulary. So if you have it, then you should simply concentrate on the vocabularies, because that is what will count at the end. And of course, this is like a bonus. You can work with this kind of stuff as a bonus, but otherwise, yes. So that was it about these books for A1 and A2 level. Let's see. Yeah. Also, I have said it in the beginning, but I know that many of you were not here. You missed that part. We have Conversation Club, Språkcafé. And yeah, don't look at the bun and the coffee and think that it's time to leave. Because what I want to say is that it is a free, it's a free, accessible so it's an opportunity to come and practice the language. So what else do you need? I mean, the idea of, yeah, I will rather to speak to an app. Why to work with the app when you could, communicate with people? So Conversation Club, like speaking club that you say in English sometimes, we have them every weekend. So we are having one in Friday, other one Saturday, and next one is Sunday. So we are varying every week. So you're very welcome. It's a free, completely free for everyone. It's online. You can access, speak, find new friends. I think that's one of the ultimate ways of learning and overcoming this barrier, because we have barrier of speaking, but if you overcome it, and usually you overcome it by speaking. You will speak wrong, no worries, but it's about speaking. There is no other way. Unfortunately, you cannot learn and suddenly speak perfect. It doesn't work like this. I hope you understand it. And there is no app that will help you. Sorry. Yeah. So what about the reason number 3? Why do you have to learn Swedish language? We said that, yeah, it can be your own personal objective. It can be that you have some hobby, right? Second one was my suggestion that you might find a new perspective on Swedish language or Germanic languages. And now the reason number 3, why to learn Swedish language? Well, if you live in Sweden, right, and then you say like this, yeah, I live in Sweden, I work with computers, I don't communicate with, in Swedish language at all, I don't need it, I manage myself perfectly, I have done it, and I will manage myself perfectly. Well, there is one objection there. Because if you do not know the language, you remember that you are going to be always and always vulnerable. Backstabbing, well, not literal, of course, but you get the point. In the working places is a very, very common thing. And if you don't know the language, people always try to fool you. People always try to take advantage of you because you don't know it. So you are vulnerable if you don't know the language. This is the reason 3. If you live in Sweden, you don't have to speak Swedish, but you have to understand it at least so that nobody is fooling you, right? So you don't feel yourself like alien. This is the reason 3 why you must learn Swedish. Yeah. What about SFE? SFE is a topic that can be discussed over and over again. There is something good about SFE if it's done well. Why SFE is under question mark. Those of you who live in Sweden already probably tried SFE and noticed that it's not really working. First of all, there is a misconception that SFE is free. Actually, the reason why SFE is as it is, I don't know, shall I say bad, but SFE is as it is because it is not for free, actually, because they are actually taking money. It's a private company that take money from the government. And of course, they are willing to fill it and overfill the classes. So the crowdedness comes from there. They try to maximize the amount of participants, keep them there, depending on if there is place or not. So SFE, the organization with SFE is lacking, and it is actually going for them very badly lately. Why? Because when it was before Corona, they could somehow compensate. You don't really notice that so much. You come there, they give you paper, do that. We see you after 40 minutes, do that exercise. We see you in 1 hour. After the pandemic, when it became online, this stuff does not work, so to say, with the web-based. So all this inefficiency just came up. People realized that, oh my God, it's just a waste of time. So, but of course, I don't want to say something so much about SFE. Those of you who went there, you know better than I do, actually. By the way, I have worked as a teacher in SFE, so you know. You can maybe later on add something about that. So our contact overall, it is onlineswedish.org. It's our webpage. Our Facebook group, I don't know if you came here from groups or you came here from different places. This is our group, Online Swedish. And it is our YouTube channel where we will put the video. We will put this recorded video into that YouTube channel. Hope you guys subscribe to that channel too, because I'm looking forward to make this channel with full of interesting videos. Also, you are welcome to our Facebook group where we put all those upcoming events. So if you want to be updated about different courses, events, you are welcome to join to that group too. Let's see if I had something. Then it's time for Q&A session, guys. Welcome, guys. If you have any questions, please, you are very welcome with your questions. And before you start your questions, I hope I have covered the most of the A1 and A2 parts. Of course, if something was not clear, I can clarify it with a big pleasure. Questions, I think. Varsågoda. No questions. Aha.
Jag ska inte... Robert, kan du lyssna på vad jag säger? Can you hear me? But yes. I can't say it in English. I think it was everything you said, and your show was very interesting, very. So det var så intressant och användbart, useful also.
Tack så mycket.
Så, varsågod.
Thank you for great feedback.
Okej, det var en sån.
Tack så
Vill jag bara säga.
Absolut. Okay. Jättesnällt. We have Peggy.
Will you please put the last slide back up again with your resources?
Yes, and yeah, I will also put those let's see, links, I think, yeah, in the chat. Let's see if you guys are available to see the chat. I posted here. Now, can you see it, guys?
I can't see the chat, but
Okay.
or your email address.
I think it's not here, right?
Group
Okay, so you mean
Swedish.
I had to put it, so you cannot see the chat, right?
I don't know why, but I can't. Let me see.
Mm,
I'm not able to see the chat. I
Oh.
don't. Let's see them over here.
uh,
I'm not.
did you get this event from the group or from the email?
I think from email.
Okay.
My son sent this to me, so I don't quite understand.
Oh, okay, I see. Otherwise, yeah, I could contact you, but if I only knew whom. But yeah, thank you. Yeah.
Okay.
Or maybe I can
Let's
write
try-
it. I can write it. Yeah, I will anyway show you some stuff before we. Yeah, if you have no more further questions. Yeah, of course you are welcome. If you have more questions, but I wanted to show you some other stuff. Let's see. Yeah, let's do like this. If I now change the screen, maybe that will be helpful. Let's see.
Yeah.
Here it is, I hope. Yeah. So here is the page of Lexin, right? Here you can write, for example, äta, right? And then you see that you have äter. Remember, r indicates that it is in presence. And then you have att äta, to eat, right? It's a infinitive. You have åt. Åt is simple past tense. And you have eaten, har ätit. Yeah, don't worry about this form at all. And then we have at, imperative. So for example, and this is the so to say, how you call the web page of Stockholm's University, because they are the one responsible for TISUS test. And regarding my email, by the way, so here I should have the, yeah, here is the email. Oh, yeah, Robert Snavela at onlineswedish.net. This is my email in case you wonders. So also, guys, you are welcome to this page, Swedish Conversation Club. Just send me your email and I will connect it to our community. Yeah, mycket bra. Andra frågor. You are so silent. We are so many guys, but yet there are no questions. Inga andra frågor. I hope it was clear. And of course, you will get the video, guys. I will put it now on our YouTube channel. You can. And also, I will try to put the timings so you can see, okay, we speak about the verb, with what time it is. You can go directly there. Some of you probably need to review it. Some of you are actually having Swedish as your mother tongue. For example, Sofia, she actually speaks very well Swedish. She speaks like a Swede, better than I do. I can say that, much better than I do, even though she's a bit shy. But she is also an active member in our Språkcafé. And if you talk to her, Sofia, she likes to speak with people. She's from Greece. It's a warm country. She has a warm heart, open heart. She loves to talk to people. And yeah, if you want, I think if you talk to Sofia in 5 sessions, you will advance easily. Maybe in a bonus, you will get Greek too. Who knows? Eller hur? Ja. Andra frågor. No other questions? Hey. Nej. Yeah, then I thank you guys a lot. Thank you guys for coming. Yes, please, let's build up a community. We have great community. So join us. We have free Språkcafés. So you can always come and talk with us. And also what it concerns me, but yeah, I will send the links. I don't know if you have yeah. If not, I can send again. We have also our courses. You can later on, if it's interested for you, start a new course. Of course, right now, nobody wants to study Swedish because we are closing Christmas. But after Christmas, the 24th of January, we will start a new batch for A1 level, for the beginner level, and we will continue with the B1s, those who already progressed, so to say. But you will get the links. You can look at it later on. Yeah. Andra frågor? I want to thank you, Rahil, for this organization.